As noted earlier, Mrs. Simpkins, who was a member of this church or attached with this church, commissioned the memorial arch as a tribute to her late husband, Nathaniel Stone Simpkins. Mr. Simpkins was an avid hunter and outdoorsman, and Mrs. Simpkins wanted a piece of the outdoor art to reflect his love of nature. Mrs. Simpkins proposed an ornamental wrought iron arch that would contain figures of dogs, flying geese, and natural scenes. The memorial arch also includes a tribute to Mr. Simpkins. Mrs. Simpkins asked that a memorial arch be placed at the corner of Hallett, now Route 6A, and Summer Streets, with the water pump and trough and a light to illuminate a dark area. The Select Board granted approval for this memorial in 1928. In this photo from the 1920s, you can see the water trough, which was located at this corner to the arch and the water pump. Mrs. Simpkins commissioned artist Frank Weston Benson to design the memorial arch. A native of Salem, Mr. Benson was a celebrated artist of his day, one of the most honored and accomplished American Impressionists. He was a member of a group called the 10 American Painters, shortened to the 10. From 1880 to 1883, he studied at the Museum of Fine Arts. Afterwards, completing his education in Boston, he traveled to Paris and continued his studies at the Académie Julian under the instruction of Gustave Boulanger and Jules Joseph Lefebvre. In 1898, Benson and 9 other American Impressionist artists seceded from the Society of American Artists, which they considered too conservative, and formed the 10. The 10 included most of the talented and advanced artists of the day, many of whom worked in the French Impressionist style. The 10 exhibited their work together over the next 20 years. Mr. Benson's work currently hangs in the Museum of Fine Arts and other prestigious art museums. The arch, water pump, and trough have been inventoried in the Smithsonian American Art Museum's inventories of American painting and sculpture. This photo is from the Smithsonian Catalog inventory. In Benson's later years, he turned to the outdoors for most of his subject matter and portrayed hunters and waterfowl to highlight the appeal of the outdoors, a passion he shared with Mr. Simpkins. Many of the panels in the memorial arch can be traced back to prior etchings and drawings made by Mr. Benson. In this slide, similarity is clear between the My Pointer dry point sketch drawn by Benson in 1915 and the hunting dog panel from the memorial arch. In this slide, the flying geese V across the top of the arch has its origins in the V dry point sketch by Mr. Benson, drawn in 1920. The similarity between the blackbirds and rushes dry point sketch by Benson in 1920 and the bird panel from the arch can be seen in this slide. To bring Frank Benson's designs to life, Mrs. Simpkins commissioned local artisan Percival Peter Forg, whose studio, shop, and forge were located in Sandwich on Route 6A. In his shop, he created wrought iron art for, that's hard to say with a New England accent, wrought iron art, for several local churches, such as the altar railings and candelabra at St. John's Episcopal Church in Sandwich, and the Gothic wrought iron door on St. Andrew by the Sea Church in Hyannisport. Forg also designed extensive wrought iron work for the renovated lobby of Bennett National Bank of Fort Lauderdale in 1937. The arch itself was made of wrought iron, and the panels depicting the outdoor scenes designed by Benson were forged from bronze. The day to dedicate the installation of the memorial arch, September 8, 1928, arrived. Mrs. Simpkins invited Yarmouth residents to the dedication ceremony held at the Universalist Church on Church Street. Then she donated the memorial arch to the town, and it has stood on the corner of Route 6A and Summer Street for the past 96 years. Over its lifetime, the memorial arch has had at least one brush with international fame. Did you know the memorial arch made an appearance in a major Hollywood motion picture? Yes, our memorial arch went Hollywood in 1941. In the movie, entitled Design for Scandal, reporter Jeff Sherman, no relation, played by Walter Pidgeon, walks under the memorial arch on a visit to Cape Cod, where his mission is to compromise a New York City judge, played by Rosalind Russell, at the behest of his boss, who was angry about a ruling she made, which was not in his favor. As you can imagine, the plan went awry, and this movie was never going to win any Academy Awards. But the memorial arch plants some of the movie's action firmly in Yarmouthport, and we know now not all of the movie was shot on a Hollywood set. Over the past 96 years, our harsh New England weather and Yarmouthport sea air have taken their toll on the memorial arch, the water pump, and the trough. After securing the CPA grant, the town contracted with Daedalus Incorporated of Watertown to restore, conserve the memorial arch and water pump and water trough. In November 6, 2023, Daedalus removed the arch and water pump to their studios in Watertown. Subsequently, Daedalus analyzed the items to determine their original compositions, removed layers of paint, repaired the surfaces as needed, coated the surfaces to assist in preservation, and reinstalled the two items in their original location. In addition, the water pump's stone pedestal was cleaned and repointed, and the water trough was restored in place. Unfortunately, Josh Crane of Daedalus was unable to join us today, but he shared some of the photos of Daedalus's cleaning and restoration process. The town was fortunate to have been able to contract with Daedalus Incorporated. For over 30 years, Daedalus has conserved and restored sculptures, monuments, and art for many types of clients, including governments, museums, and universities. Clients include the U.S. government, which has contracted with Daedalus to treat the sculptures in the Statuary Hall of the U.S. Capitol building. And closer to home, Daedalus has been conserving the 18th century Old Boston Post Road markers. Daedalus is a premier restoration and conservation company, and we were fortunate to be able to tap into their expertise and entrust our historic items to their care. Daedalus cleaned and degraded paint and corrosion first. Paint was removed from the arch using a technique that minimizes the loss of the original surface. This slide shows Daedalus using a chemical solvent, including paint remover, to remove paint from the arch. Mechanical techniques are used to remove the paint. In this slide, the Daedalus employs a light sanding method to remove paint in their Watertown, right out on the street of their Watertown plant. Using visual analysis of the existing paint layers, Daedalus finds the original surface finish of the arch elements Investigation determined that the arch frame is made of wrought iron and the panels of bronze. Daedalus noted that the pump showed similar levels of degradation as observed in the arch. The base of the water pump was broken, so Daedalus's restoration included repairing the base. The surfaces of the arch were treated with materials formulated for use on outdoor metal elements to aid in preservation. The arch now is restored. The arch restoration is complete. This slide shows the details of the V flying geese at the top of the arch after restoration. The next slide shows the man on horseback panel after its restoration. The hunting dog panel after its restoration. And the water pump after restoration. Like the arch, the water pump was lightly sanded and treated with chemicals to remove any layers of paint. Reversible fill was used to repair any surface issues, and the pump was treated with a preservative that is formulated for outdoor metal objects. And you can see the base repaired. As part of the restoration of the base, the water pump was recast. The base of the water pump was recast in iron. On September 3rd, 2024, Daedalus Incorporated reinstalled the memorial arch for future generations to admire this beautiful outdoor sculpture commissioned by Mrs. Simpkins in memory of her late husband, Nathaniel Stone Simpkins, Jr. The memorial arch was dedicated on Saturday, September 8th, 1928, and donated to the residents of Yarmouth. The restored memorial arch was rededicated today, Sunday, September 8th, 2024. Then Daedalus removes the first of the packing material to expose the first goose of the flying V at the top of the arch. At this point, if you have any questions, we can take them now. Then thank you for coming to the rededication of the memorial arch and water pump. Please join us now as we walk to the corner of 6A and Summer Street to lay a wreath to celebrate the restoration and return of these historic pieces of art.
Thank you all for coming. It's wonderful to see so many folks turning